Hello, everyone. It's happy Friday, first of all. It's good to be back. I'm joined by Q for this week's session, and Q will get it started with a new Algolia plugin showing you how it works, what Algolia is, how it works with WeWeb, and then I'll show you how to get data from the Notion API. I'm not sure if Quentin is live or if he has arrived yet, but it's following one of our user questions. So we'll look at that. And maybe before we get started, I just wanted to address one item, which is the rich text input, which is a feature that we didn't do well on this one. So we thought we would be able to release it at the end of May. Then it was postponed to June, and it's still not out. So I just wanted to address that. I want our users to know that we are working on it, and we just kind of messed up. So to be completely transparent with you, in May and June there were a couple of roadblocks in terms of the technical side of things that meant that we weren't able to release it as fast as we thought we would be able to. And then with the holidays, the vacation of different people on the team, we actually messed up because the input has been developed since July, and we haven't reviewed it yet. So we really messed up on this one. We're really sorry. But I don't want to make any promises because we've made so many on this input. I just don't want to make any anymore. And just so you know, we're working right now on huge big features, including code export. So this is kind of trapping things that are ready in our developer environment. So we can't release the rich text input. Anyway, we need to review it, and then it's a little bit blocked by other big features that are coming up. So yeah, just wanted to let you know. I apologize on behalf of the entire team, and you know, yeah, sorry, we messed up on this one. So yeah, I guess maybe Q, you can take over with more fun stuff and actually like stuff that
Yeah,
works, like the
ho-
Algolia plugin
hopefully.
that's released. So I'll let you take over and share your screen.
Yeah,
And for
sure.
anyone at the chat, don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. Um, yeah, even if it's not on topic, it's fine. Uh, we will answer as best as we can.
Just before to begin, does everybody knows Algolia, or is it something new for you? Would wait for people to answer. Anyway, I will present Algolia, so. But
Yeah,
just to know if people are used to it already, because it's quite a technical product, but it's really useful. I mean, they're getting into low code too. I mean, like Stripe, basically, like this last year, they managed to ship some interfaces, but it's still quite technical. And I'm quite happy that we can use it in WeWeb because it's really powerful, and giving you the power of Algolia without having to code is really cool, to my opinion. Obviously, I'm biased, but yeah, because I was used to of using Algolia by coding before, and I really liked it in WeWeb too. So anyway, let me share my
I'm
screen.
on the I'm on the other spectrum where before I joined WeWeb, I didn't know the existence of Algolia. But it is once someone explains it like Hugh was about to do, it's fairly intuitive
Yeah, and I mean,
and
it's
very powerful.
I mean, most people they know Algolia, even if they never used it, because it's used. I mean, it's a product that's used by many websites and many apps, but you don't know you're using it. So basically, what Algolia is. So we're on the home page. It's the French one. Maybe let me go to the English one because all the examples. Okay, French. Okay. Anyway, it's in
I have
English,
an
but still
English
it's
one.
French example. So, but
Oh,
yeah, like the main purpose of Algolia is to build search engines for your website, web app, e-commerce websites without having to do it. Because actually, creating a search engine is really hard. That's why Google is worth so much, actually. So yeah, it's a French company, by the way. George is like reminding us. I mean, it was built by French people. Actually, it's a US company, but yeah, it's from Paris, so we love it, obviously. And yeah, it's a way to create search engine inside your product. So basically, you've used it because You see example here, so like it's like Ubisoft or Macquarie, it's really French. I mean, some people know Ubisoft, but when you use search inside their website, it's actually Algolia that's doing the search. And you see like in the example, they have Under Armour as client, Flexport. I think I've seen that Slack is using Algolia. Netflix, I think no, they use their own algorithm, but they used to use Algolia. And GitHub, when you're searching for like inside GitHub, inside repositories, I think it's Algolia too. So yeah, it's really powerful. And how it works is like it mimics your database inside their own database. They index everything and they're able to let you search really fast among lots of columns inside your records, basically. And they also handle things like typos. So if you will see it, but if users they mistype some words, it will still work. You can set up priorities in how you search. So like searching first in a column, a specific column, for example, a title before to search in a description. You can also have a like faceted search. So add search like on the price, for example, or on categories, and everything is done by Algolia. And it's really fast because you use their own backend and you don't have to build everything, because basically creating a full text search inside the database by himself. I tried to do it several years ago. It's a pain. So don't do it. And yeah, so you can all try Algolia on their website. So algolia.com. You've got like a free tier that's pretty generous, and then you pay per search. And so how it works, let me go inside my dashboard. It's like here, for example, I have what they call an index inside an app. And in this index, I basically like duplicated data from a CRM I was building inside WeWeb. And the way you do it normally is that you feed Algolia's database with the API or with a CSV or JSON. And it's your job though to update this data when anything changes inside your database. But what's cool is that because they have this data inside their product, every time you will search inside your app, a user will search, it will actually ping through API Algolia and not your backend anymore. So also it's really cool because like it removes the burden on your backend, because we'll see just after, but when you do complex search, anytime a user is typing a letter, it's really heavy on your on the backend. So you don't have to worry anymore with Algolia. So what I've done is that I uploaded this CRM data. So you see it's like people, fake people. I have their name, their email, their job title. I have also like their company name, the domain of their company, the logo, the location, industry, all these things. And so what I can do now is that I can add this collection inside WeWeb. I will do this like just now. And by the way, let me activate this so that you can see my cursor. I will zoom a little and let's go on WeWeb. So here, first thing to do is to go into data source, add Algolia. And then here you just have to add like 3 keys, which are like the application ID, the search only API key, and the admin API key. So they are all in your Algolia settings. And once it's done, you can go to collections, add a collection. And basically here, I will add the CRM collection and select Algolia as the source. And so now I have to select among my index. So indexes, they're kind of like tables inside a classic database. And it's really easy to use in WeWeb because you just have a drop-down with all your indexes. You can select them and then it's done. Like the table, the index is properly selected. You don't have to do anything else. The only thing is that beforehand, let me show you this. I added a search bar that I will use as my Algolia search, because yeah, the whole purpose of Algolia is to do full text search. So the best way to use it is with a search input. And how it works is that you will, in the collection, you will bind this search input to the search, the Algolia search. So to do this, you click on the plug icon, you go in your variables, I select my search bar. So it's empty. So when I hit continue, I will have all the data that I have in my Algolia database. So you see, everything is here. Then pagination, I will maybe set pagination at 10 because I don't want to load everything at once. Then done. And that's it, I have my collection inside WeWeb. So now what I want to do is that like any other collection, I want to display it here in a data grid to let the users see what's inside this collection. So I drag and drop the data grid. I created already the the columns, and just what I have to do now is to bind it to my collection, so CRM. And you see here, I have the data that's inside Algolia. And so now you're saying, okay, it's
okay, or can everyone see okay on your screen, or do you need? Let us know if you need us to zoom a bit more.
Yeah, sure. Now what I can do is that also I drag and drop the paginator, so I will bind it to the CRM. A bit small. Okay, let me zoom again. Better. And let me remove this because it's taking space. And so now it's behaving like a normal collection, so I can use the pagination. You see it's working. And I have my data. So nothing different from using classic collections right now. But the thing is, for example, in WeWeb, if I were to search among like the name, the job title, the company, the industry, normally I would need to do, so this is not possible because it's Algolia, but in a normal collection, you know, I would have to do like conditions, setting if a search is typed, then check if the text is in the name or in the job title or in the company and all that kind of things. And also I can't handle typos because that would be really hard to do. And what I can do inside Algolia is just go to my index configuration and tell Algolia all the columns I want user to be able to search for. So for example, I could say the name of the person. I could add the email, or maybe also the company name. So company name, maybe the domain, and also why not the industry and the location. So I will save it. And now what's happening is that if I search typing a text, like Algolia will search along all these columns at the same time. So we can try it actually in their own UI because it's just for debugging purposes. But for example, now if I type Airbnb, you see that I only have like 8 objects matching Airbnb. And you see it's matching in the email, in the company, in the domain. And actually, if I have a typo and I type Airbnb, it's still working. You know, that's really cool because that took me like just 5 seconds to add the columns, and it works by default. And so the thing I can do now,
we have a lot of people searching for WeWeb, so it's instead of WeWeb, so it's helpful. It would be helpful in that case as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
A little anecdote. This week I received a cold email from a marketer saying how much they loved the WeWeb website and would like to do some work for us. So that's always very nice and flattering when someone doesn't get their name. WeWeb.web. Yeah, that's a good idea, George.
We should buy it someday. One other cool thing that's really cool with Algolia too is that I can search among multiple columns using the same text. So for example, if I do Airbnb and then I want to search only for example, Jason, I could type Jason and now I have only Jason Nunes from Airbnb. And the order of the words, it's not useful. I mean, the user can search in any like order. And you see it's searching along all the columns, also if you have like different values. And that's really, really hard to do also with no code, even with code, because you've got to split the text, try all the combinations in all the columns, and it's really slow. Like the whole purpose of Algolia is you see like the search was incredibly fast because they index everything in their database. Like doing something like this in a PostgreSQL database, for example, or MySQL database inside Supabase or even Xano, it's kind of hard because it's like it's really demanding for your database. And so Algolia, their whole business is to optimize around that. And now what we can do is that we can go back to WeWeb, go on the search input. So let me open the navigator. And I have only one thing to do. It's to add a workflow, add an action. Actually, I could trigger an Algolia search from here. So you see, like I have also the index, the search, and even the pagination. But I don't need it because this search input is already bound to the collection. But if you were to like trigger it from another search input, for example, or a button, you could do this too. So I don't even need this. What I have to do is only fetch a collection and actually fetch the CRM collection. And now if I go on preview and I type Airbnb, okay, demo effect, why is it not working? Fetch collection, because it's on click, yeah, I have to use and change to watch for the user like typing inside the search input. So if I do, yeah, okay, so it's working already. You see, if I remove everything, I have like all the people. And if I do, for example, I put segment, I have all the people working as segment. And let's say, for example, I want just the people that are maybe HR manager. So I will put HR. I don't know why it's not working. Maybe because the word is too small, or I forgot to add the job title. Let me see. I forgot to add the job title in Algolia. So the whole purpose of having a tool is that this would take actually development time to add a column. In Algolia, I can just do this. Then I think I have just to reload WeWeb just to be sure like the new settings are taken into account. And now I can do like segment and HR. It's working. So I have only Laurie, who's HR manager as segment. And it works. And for example, I added also the industry, so we can do like lodging. So I have only Airbnb, and then I can do also like developer. I have only Joyce. Actually, there's another Joyce who's business developer. And that works. Marketing. I can do like Twitch. Try. And you see everything is like reacting in real time. So like the collection inside my data grid, but also the pagination. So because I'm doing like really specific search, I only have one page, but that would adapt. For example, if I were to search for maybe, yeah, no, that's not enough. But if there were 2 pages, there would be 2 pages that would still appear. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Algolia. So one thing that we don't do yet though is that in Algolia I could have faceted search. So if I go, for example, in the examples, so Algolia examples, could see that Algolia is much more than just searching for text. For example, they have a demo for an e-commerce website. Let me zoom back. Okay. For example, Algolia is also able to like handle sorting, number of results per page, the categories, and you see like everything is reacting in real time. So for example, if I were to search for, I don't know, Amazon, you see that all the numbers, the total items there would be in every category or like for every brand, they react in real time. So now it's 59, 5, and if I remove like my search, you see that these numbers are changing. You could also like change according to the price, the ratings, all that kind of stuff, the pagination. And this will come in WeWeb. It's just that at the moment we consider like the Algolia collection as a classic collection inside WeWeb. And what we'll do in the weeks or months to come is that we'll also include Algolia's front-end SDK, because basically Algolia, they offer like React and Vue components to do all this kind of results and faceting really easily. And we'll import them as WeWeb component, and then you'll be able to do whole searches like this in real time. And you see, like, it's really powerful. I really love it because you can really search for everything. And the cool thing I really love is like when you use their SDK, they are also like changing. You can change the CSS to highlight the words that matched in the title and the description. So it would be possible we're already checking this inside WeWeb, but this will be possible pretty soon inside WeWeb. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Algolia and WeWeb.
Does anyone have a Luke fair? Thanks for the kind words. Glad you like WeWeb. Do you have any
buddy.
questions?
Actually, I'm surprised because Luke is a close friend and he should be working at this moment.
Right,
Why are you on?
I didn't realize it's Luke Airfare.
It's Luke.
I just went in.
Why are you on your? I mean, I love that you're on our stream, but you should be working too. But yeah, if you have any questions, now's the time before we continue on Notion.
Yeah. No question this team. Okay,
No
so
question.
I'll share my
It was so clear. Okay.
So clear.
Nice.
All right. Let me share my screen, and if you have any questions about anything else, by the way, you don't feel free to do so. Basically, the idea here is to show you, so we don't have a native integration with Notion at the moment, but we have a REST API plugin. So you can already work with Notion with Notion in your in WeWeb. So the Notion API, if you've ever tried to work with it, you probably already know, but it's a little bit painful at times, just because of the way Notion is structured. So they think of each page, has blocks inside, and you can add a database. So here, for example, we have a very simple project with a database table and a list of items, which then open into a separate page. So you see here, when we open the page, there's a page ID. So if we want to, basically, if we want to get this data from the database, we need this database ID. And then if we want to make changes to any item in the database, we need to pass through the page ID. And that's just for like the properties of a database item. So it becomes even more complex if you've actually written text. And, if, for example, one of my use cases I had very early on was I wanted to write our change logs in Notion and then just use REST API to display the change log on our website. I wasn't able to do that because I would need to, loop through. I mean, I could, but it would be a nightmare. So you would need to loop through all the blocks and to make sure you display all the blocks of text, because each paragraph in Notion would be, these are 2 blocks. How did I type exactly the same thing? It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's really hard when you've got like lots of nested blocks, because it's like the API is keeping the same structure. And the thing is, they don't give you like the content of every block. If you've got like lots of nested blocks, you still have to do other REST API calls to get what's inside also the sub blocks. So it can be really hard to do. But if you've got like a classic table like it, it's doable. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, we ended up using Ghost, using Ghost REST API, just for the end of that story. But one of our users asked last week, he was having trouble displaying Notion data in his WeWeb project. So we thought we'd look into it and try to help him out. So we did, and this is, I'm not sure if Quentin is live, but basically this is the solution. So the first thing you need to be, in order to use the REST API, the Notion API, you need to be working in an account for which you are an admin. So in my case, initially, I was going to perform the tutorial with a WeWeb Notion account, and I'm not an admin of that workspace, so I had to move to my personal account. So that's just one small thing that you'll run into pretty much right away. The next thing you need to do is basically go to the settings and members, and in integrations here, you can go ahead and develop develop your own integrations, or you can go directly to this URL. Actually, let me add it here. And here, basically, what you can do is you'll just add a new integration. You will name it. You would go with a workspace. And in this case, so let me go back to my integrations, ones I've already created. So we're using this one, the Notion to WeWeb. We're using an internal integration, so you can actually make it available to the public, and then the users have to authenticate. We didn't go that far. We just went with the internal integration for the purposes of this use case. And basically, we decided that people would be able to read or update or insert content.
For people
no user.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, but for people that are used to this kind of like apps creation, it's like, you know, what you can know with Twitter or like Google. It's depending of how you, like, if your app is public, you will need validation in order to do OAuth, because basically you will expose your app and people will be able to use their own Notion accounts. But if it's internal, normally you just get a token. Like for the API, you can really easily like begin to work on this. But yeah, it's kind of like, if you're used to Twitter is exactly the same thing, for example. I think Google is almost the same, depending if you use like internal or public integration.
I don't know about Google. I haven't tried it. I have tried Twitter.
I've done it quite recently, and when you have to do like the OAuth and expose it, you have to get validated by Google.
Yeah.
It's really long, and we've got like so many tokens and the APIs to copy. But yeah, anyway, like it's not the classic API key thing that you can see in other tools, but it's like if it's for internal purpose, it's really easy to do.
Yeah. And so you'll get, when you create the integration, you'll get an internal integration token. So you'll want to, I will not show it to you because it should be kept secret, as is made clear here. But it's basically the token that actually you might see it later in the demo. Yeah, so that the idea is you copy that somewhere safe to, that is not exposed publicly. What you do not do is you do not save it in a variable in WeWeb, because all the variables that are in WeWeb are potentially accessible in the browser, so inspector. So you may, you don't want to use a variable here. It might be tempting because you will need to use that token every time you make an API call for authorization. So it may be tempting to save it as a variable in WeWeb so you can just bind it. And I'll show you a little bit later what I mean by binding it for those of you who are new to WeWeb. But yeah, that's so that's what you do to get the integration token from Notion. And then what you'll need to do is basically on your page, you will go ahead and share the page with your list of items, and you will invite here our integration. So here, for example, I could invite also the test integration. I'm not going to because I don't need to, but basically I've invited my Notion to WeWeb integration, which we just saw, and it can edit. It's, these are the settings that I chose when I created the integration. So that's another step that, you need to not forget about, basically. And then finally, what you'll need is the database ID.
Just Joyce, we have a good question from George. Like he's asking, like, because of what you said with the API keys and the variables, how we handle the API key for backend like Airtable and others. So when you're doing collection and we have an integration, we store the keys on our servers and we just use them when the app publishes, and we use only the public keys are getting in the final build. That's why we are, like, for most backends, we are doing integrations ourselves, like to Supabase or like Airtable, so that everything is stored on our servers and you don't have like any issues with that. And soon there's gonna be like, we're working on code export, so for self-hosting, for example, and we'll expose the small server also that's in charge of storing the keys, so that you can also host it on your server, but it's never in your build.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Yeah, and then basically I need to get my I'm checking my notes because I wasn't sure anymore what the database ID was. So I need to get the database ID, and it's this one. So it's right after the notion.so path and before the first query string. So this is my database ID. And once you have all those items, basically, so your internal integration token, the database ID, and you've made sure that you've invited the integration on the page, you're ready to go to WeWeb. And in WeWeb, basically, the first thing you'll need to do, actually, maybe I think that's easy enough. But basically, if you go, you'll need to go to the plugins section, and in data sources, you'll need to choose REST API, and there's no configuration to make. Once you've chosen the, that's it. There's no configuration. And once you've added this plugin, you can add a collection. So that's what we'll do now. I've already done it for a few, but let's do it again together. So you'll add a collection and I'll call it a different name. So list of groceries. And the source will be REST API. I leave it as dynamic. And this is where it gets interesting. So let me actually maybe let me see if I find.
We've got a question, yes, from Crest Rider 2. Does this apply to password as well? For example, if I use the integration with Xano for storing user data, email and password. So actually this never touches our servers at all because it's an API call. So what happens is when you you use authentication, except when it's WeWeb off, it touches our servers because it's on our servers, obviously. But like the email and password are only sent during the API call, and then like we get back a token from Xano, for example, or Supabase or WeWeb servers to get to know who's the users and if it's authenticated, but we can't read it because that's how authentication works, by the way. Password, they are not stored like how the user typed them. They are like encoded and hashed, and we never have this on our server. It's like sent from the navigator, the browser, the user browser to the backend, and then we just get the token inside the cookie. So no, it's not stored on our side.
Which is not something we can do. For example, if you're using Airtable as a backend, as a database, then you'll need to add a layer of auth0 for authentication, and you can make a trigger. You can set up a trigger between Airtable and auth0 to make that link between user data and the actual user with a password, but it's not as secure than as it is when you're using Xano backend, which is a real backend with integrated auth. Okay, so yeah, I was looking for this here. Let me share it with you. It's the user doc, Notion user doc for working with databases, and that's where you'll find the URL that you need to the API call. So first of all, is the method to get the data is actually post, because we're querying the database. And what we'll do is
that's weird, actually.
Yeah,
I'm not used to it.
And what we'll do is, so this is the URL, and this is a variable. So database ID is a variable. So what we'll do is we will find the data. So if you're not used to WeWeb, let me show you what I mean by that. And it's not, oops, here we go. It's databases. And okay, for some reason I'm not able to. Let me choose a different way of doing it. Concatenate. And there you go. So I'll use the concatenate formula. If you're new to WeWeb, you may not know, but here in formulas, we have a bunch of different no-code formulas you can use.
George is leaving, so goodbye, George.
Bye, George. Have a great day. And here, what we'll do is we'll have our database ID, and then we'll have again that end of the URL. So we need our database ID, which I said was here. So I'll copy this and include it here. And here. Right. Let's concatenate. So for some reason it's not.
You've got two quotes at the end before the last.
At the end. All right. There we go.
And I think you're missing a
And
slash.
I'm missing a slash here. And let's see if that's okay. Yeah. So now I have my my database, my API call to go and get the data from that database. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you'll need to add headers. The first one is authorization, and it's actually a bearer token. So you will say in WeWeb, you will say, let me get it here, define my secret. So you may see it partially. That's fine. I'll delete it afterwards because I don't trust you. It's really not important.
So just to answer Chris Ryder, so he's asking like you have the ability to create your own custom functions and formulas. Yeah, you can. You can write formulas using JavaScript, and I think now, if I remember well, you can also write formulas using other formulas. And basically, formulas, they are just layers on top of JavaScript, so you can even mix JavaScript and formulas. So yeah, that's great. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so right here that would be in data and formulas. You can go ahead, you can add parameters as well, which can come in handy. And here you can either write pure JavaScript, or you could start writing, for example, a filter by key function using our filter by key formula. And then if you switch, let's say, for example, I'm doing that. That's a good example, actually. So the filter by key is looking inside a collection, inside an array. It's looking for what matches what. And if you switch then to JavaScript, you see that here you have the no-code formula, but also you have access to the collection in JavaScript format. So you can play around. You can start with formula. The only thing, is if you switch back to formula, you lose everything. So just be careful about that. But you can switch from formula. You can do as much work as you can in no code, and then switch to code, and it will keep it will keep your no code work.
What some people doesn't know though is that you can still, you can go to full JavaScript when you're blocked. I do it quite often actually, but you can still write some little bits of JavaScript inside the formula if you stay in formula mode. For example, you could say like .length or arep.map, I don't know, because in the end, like what you see as formulas, it's only JavaScript that we present to you quite nicely, I would say, but still JavaScript. So here, for example, she could, like type, I don't remember if JavaScript is .length, but yeah, you can use the dot notation, like the brackets notation. So this is, it works. So this is JavaScript in the end.
And they're reusable. So the formulas, then you can actually use a formula, and you could say that you want to display, and you would go in your formulas, and if you had one, actually, let me save a custom one. So here we go, and then it would mean you would have access to it in the formulas here. From the project, you could have your custom formula here.
Yeah, and you could obviously, like, we won't go into details in this stream, but you could obviously like also create arguments that this formula will use. For example, if you want to change the parameters you will send to the formula to reuse it, like a classic function in programming, basically.
Yeah, and super helpful when you're working with global workflows or anything, because then you have access to this at project level. So instead of having to rewrite the function all the time, the formula all the time. You can just reuse it and use parameters to pass arguments. Do we have any other question?
I think it's okay.
All right, so back to the list of groceries. I have the authorization and something that really I spent something like it's my fault. I didn't read the documentation. My mistake, but you really do not forget to add the Notion version in the headers. You may, like me, just kick yourself otherwise. All right, so now if I go ahead and click continue, I will get an error, and it will be a network error. And this is because the Notion's REST API wants the request to go through a server. So by default, when you make a REST API call in WeWeb, it will be through the front end because we're a front end builder. But we developed that little option because a lot of APIs actually require their API calls to go through a server. So you have a little bit of an explanation text if all this is new to you. Now, once we do that, we actually see the result, and I'm wondering if you can all hear people doing work in the apartment next door, or if it's fine.
We don't hear it, but I think like you're using an AI to remove the noise, so your voice is really robotic now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's why my voice is robotic, because I'm actually receiving about 100 decibels and 60 decibels in my ears right now. So yeah, sorry for the weird voice. But yeah, okay. So the result we get from Notion is all of this. It's an object with all of this, and what we personally I like to do, because we don't really have any pagination or anything, is I just like to add the results key here, so that I get a clean array of items. And now I just have the three items from my database. And so that's basically it, really. So you can visualize it as formatted, display by object or ID, or created time. And then you can access all of this data. And I will show you how to display it in WeWeb, just so you know. Again, I mentioned at the beginning, but so Notion has a lot of nested content. And for the little anecdote, so our user can figure out how to get the data. And I actually spent something like 6 hours building a crazy on-page workflow to loop through the pages and get the properties and all that. And it turns out that the data is available right from that first call. I didn't need to do all that, and it's actually I don't know why we both missed it, both the user and I. It's actually in here in the properties, and then you go in there, and then you go in there, and then you go in here, and finally you get a plain text. So if I show you an object mode, it's here, properties.
Welcome to Notion's API.
Rich text, 0, and there we go. So yeah, it was painful, but in the end we got there, and I got to play around with workflows, which are amazing with the new branching. So I don't regret the wasted time. It was still fun. And so then to display it, it's really pretty simple. What I chose here is I chose a data grid element, which I can find here. Let me do it again because the data grid is kind of new. And we still need to work a little bit to make it even more intuitive. So you can choose to add the data grid element with a variable. You will exclude it. It's the same with the new Kanban element. This is to help you when we create the element, when we add it to your project, we also add a mock data variable, and this is to help you understand what kind of data it expects. But here we'll just deactivate it. I'll place the component, and basically on the data grid, in the settings, I will go ahead and this is the mock data that we refused. and I will go and get my list of groceries. So it expects an array. And once you've passed an array, you've given it an array, it will need a unique ID. So it needs to know like a unique ID to make sure it doesn't show the same item several times. In this case, we'll use a Notion's page ID. And so you see we don't have an error here anymore. And what we'll do is here, we will add the text. So we need to bind it to the path. We need to tell the data grid where to find value you want to display. So as I mentioned, it's in properties. And let's say the first thing I want to display is the name. So I need to go here and then inside here and then inside here. And it's here. Okay, so now you see all the names here. So here, if you want to, we can rename it title or we can leave it name. It's fine. And then what we can do is need to go back on the data grid. For column 2, let's choose a text again, and we'll go and link to the bind to the description. So it's here and inside here, and plain text, blah, blah, blah. All right. And then finally in Notion, we have a checkbox. So at the moment, we don't have the checkbox as an available predefined input in our data grid. It's coming. We've started working on it. But in the meantime, what we can do is we can actually add a checkbox like this, checkbox here. And we can just drag and drop it on the data grid. Where can I drop it? Where am I? It's in the cells. So let me drop it like this. I think it will be easy. I do. Oh, because I need sorry, my bad. So I'm in the data grid, and for the third column, first I need to tell the data grid that I want to add a custom, I want to add a custom input, and I'll just delete the fourth column because it's messing with my head. So now I can drag and drop the checkbox and the custom field, and I can just, I don't want to show this, so I'll hide it here. Okay, so what's important to know is that when you use a custom element in the data grid, you will not be able to perform a CRUD, so you will not be able to update that specific field. So that's why we'll be adding the checkbox as an option here, because obviously at some point you will want to be able to, to click on the checkbox or click it on WeWeb, and you will want that to update your Notion. For now, it's not possible with a checkbox element. In any case, what we can do then is we can go ahead and properties again, done, and type checkbox, and there we go. And I cannot remember what it's. Oh yeah, and I need to add the initial value. Forgot about that. So on the checkbox, actually I need to add the initial value here. So the item properties, boom, 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 done, and false in this case, and true in both cases. So that's it really. That's how you get the data from your database in Notion, and how you display the properties. So these, yeah, I didn't mention before, but these are properties in Notion. All of these are properties. So the content, then they will be blocks, but yeah, these are properties. Add a property. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I think I've pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Next week, I would like to show you the CRUD, how to update a record using the data grid, how to update a Notion record using the data grid. I don't know if you had any questions, if that helps, if you want to share experiences you've had with the Notion API of war stories. Don't hesitate to ask. That's what we're here for. X. So, is there a way to use Excel or CSV as a backend without having to integrate with Airtable or Zano? Can we expect WeWeb to integrate with Excel in a way that can sync new Excel data with WeWeb, just like WeWeb syncs data with Zano? So yeah, we have we have a get data plugin for we have a plugin for Google Sheets to get data, but indeed we can't you can't CRUD with it. I don't believe it's on the roadmap, so it's not on the roadmap to develop a Google Sheets integration where you are able to update your items. At least I'm not aware of it. Q, maybe you have more information on this.
The thing is, Excel files and CSV files are not backends. You can't query them through APIs. So that would be, you would have to upload them on tools like maybe Xano, Supabase, Airtable, for example, and they handle CSV uploads, for example. But the thing is, they're files, not servers, so we can't query them at all. What we could do, we used to have like a Google Sheet integration, because like Google Spreadsheet has an API, but still it was like really clumsy with web apps because like it's really limited. And so I wouldn't recommend it. So I would say just upload it on a real backend, because that's not something we could do at all, I think.
You can display Excel data, like Google Sheets data. We have that plugin, but you won't be able to really have any web app functionalities with it. And has the table element been discontinued? The long term, I know the idea is that we kind of pushing you towards the data grid, because what we noticed with the old table element is that it was basically users spent too much time trying to set it up. So what we're doing with the data grid, we're iterating on the data grid, but very soon basically you will have the sorts and filters and all of that natively with the data grid. So everything you were able to do with the table, you'll be able to do it with the data. Actually, everything you can do with the table, you already can do with the data grid, because the table was only displaying data in columns, which you can already do in the data grid. And the value of the data grid right now is the fact that you can do inline editing. So you can update an element, saying, I know Q likes Kotu, so I'll say that. So you can update your backend that way. It won't work this time because I haven't set up the CRUD yet on the Notion site, the API call, but you can update like that. So that's the real power. You can delete elements as well. That's the real power of the data grid, because it's basically already half set up for you. And in the future, we'll also have like the sort icons and the icons and the filters, the search, all of that. So it will be much easier. Same with the pagination. It's just you just add it at the end of the data grid, and it's smoother than with the old table element. You're very welcome. Thanks for asking. I'd be curious to know what you would like us to what you would most like us to talk about next week or in the coming weeks, just to share with you our thoughts. So we want to show you how to update a record in Notion. We are looking into a use case where we could show you how to use real-time tables in Supabase. We have new templates that are coming very soon. So a CRM template, for example, that we will present to you, that Q is working on at the moment. Q is also working with a customer on a really cool app where people can upvote, can make suggestions as to who wins awards. So they can nominate people for an award, and then other users can upvote them, but they're only allowed 3 upvotes per category. So Q built this with Supabase and WeWeb, and it's pretty cool. He did a little bit of SQL on the Supabase side of things. That's quite powerful. So yeah, those are some of the ideas we have. If there's anything else you'd like us to show you, Or if you want
I think
to
I have
actually,
like I have to do a live on Stripe too with the checkout pages and custom payments also because
yeah,
we
good
showed
point.
it, but like not with all the options. And I mean Stripe is like Algolia, they have so many options. They're really cool, but you have to know them. And most of them you can already get them from reading their documentation, but still we'll like present them
Yeah.
with a use case.
Yeah, sure. So we showed you how we showed you Stripe payments and building the checkout page in WeWeb, but some of our users would prefer using the Stripe checkout workflow. So redirect to the Stripe checkout page and then back to WeWeb. So we can show you that. And Nicola is asking, I saw you redesign the website. Do you have plans to redesign also the builder? Yes, it's a work in progress. So we're not opening a huge branding topic in terms of marketing, but in terms of product, we are looking to improve the UX and redesign a little bit the editor. You may have seen some changes already. But yeah, that we have an awesome designer who's 21 or 22-year-old. I don't know. He makes me feel old. Based in Croatia, who's really, really good. I mean, we love his work. Hopefully, you do too. Thanks, sorry. Oh yeah, and also we'd like to show you. So recently, I worked with a client where where that has a lot of workflows and a lot of different collections. And what we did since we released the branching is we really optimized the performance of their app using conditional branching and in the workflows. So that'd be cool to show you in a few weeks' time as well. So yeah.
There's a question about how should I go building a WeWeb template marketplace like WordPress. I'm thinking of starting an agency with WeWeb that pre-builds niche sites with pre-built integrations and offer this to businesses. I think you could do a simple app with like a collection page basically, but what's interesting is that we're speaking about this topic a lot on the product team, and we're thinking on getting, I don't know if it will be by the end of the year, but early next year, a first example of a marketplace for UI kits, templates, integrations, all that kind of things, because you're not the only one to ask this, obviously. But I think we would do it, and what we will do is like, we would create a two-sided marketplace, so you'd be able to sell your kits, for example, and people would be able to, because at the moment, if you do this, it would be really hard to like let people import these elements inside their projects, and so we will have to develop it, but once it's done, we'll open it to everybody.
And yeah, and for the like, how should you go about building a project? Something we've noticed is that's why we started adding variables with mock data for certain elements. And I know that Q with the CRM template actually has Exano backend, because just building the UI without any data can be confusing for the client. So if you're thinking of building templates, Chris right too, you may think of that, or maybe your collection is just 3 items in an array variable. Just keeping it simple, but adding some data so that users get it right away and understand right away how the data is displayed and all of that. I think the more you can do that, the better the experience is for the user. I think, and thank you very much, Carol. Really, really appreciate
Thanks.
it.
We'll send this
Glad
to
you're
the team. They'll be happy to hear this.
Yeah, for sure. Good point, actually. Let me take a screenshot of this comment. I can we have a dedicated Slack channel with customer love, because sometimes it can be challenging to build a no-code product. So it's what keeps us going, these lives and your awesome comments. And so yeah, keep them coming. It helps us through the tough times, like the rich text input I mentioned at the beginning of the live, that we kind of messed up on this one. So thank you so much for your patience, you guys, as well. Oh yeah, and that's how you, yeah, super interesting. So Quest 2 is saying that's how you learn uh, integrating the charts in the front end. Because it's kind of yeah, it's kind of difficult otherwise. That's charts plugin. Oh, we're not in the it's the internal Slack channel that we just send each other when we see something nice on Twitter or in the community. We take a screenshot and share it to the rest of the team. But it's an internal thing. But if you do want to talk with us, I don't know if you're aware of the community. Let me share the link with you.
But that's a nice point, actually. Like, we could do a small apps where people can send us love. I mean,
Yeah, that's
we
a
love
good
it.
idea.
So
Love.
send us love, please. More love.
And awesome. Well, thanks a lot for being here. As always, if there's anything we can help with, if there's anything you want to see in future live streams, let us know. If you have a project you want to feature, if you want to join us live and showcase your project, we're very open to that. Nicola, who is here, came once and it was awesome. Nicola, if you want to come again, feel free to let us know. We'd be more than happy to co-host it with you. And yeah, until then, we have a great weekend and we'll see you next week.
Bye.